I'm ill in doing this because it's slightly easier for me than schoolwork while still making me feel like I'm not wasting time being completely unproductive. Anyway, as a science enjoyer with a large amount of witchy friends, I think the interest in either thing comes from the same place of curiosity about the world and care for it, so the STEM lords still look down on tarot readers and vice versa are annoying to me. I know the ancient Greeks were cool with it. During the classical period, there was collaboration between scientists, philosophers, mathematicians, and spiritual leaders. Lots of collaboration, in fact. Pretty sure the Abbasid Caliphate was cool with it too during the Islamic Golden Age. It was probably the Catholic Church who got worried about scientists proving God and did wacky stuff like jailing Galileo for life. Those silly little guys. Again, I'm too sick to go into why there's such a cultural rift between science and witchcraft right now, so I'll probably make more videos on this, but for now I just want to talk about flowers and funny numbers. The Fibonacci sequence is where the subsequent number is equal to the sum of the two previous numbers. For example, if you start with 0, 1, then it'll go 0, 1, 1, since 0 plus 1 equals 1. Then it'll go 0, 1, 1, 2, since 1 plus 1 equals 2, and so on. It was actually discovered first by Indian mathematicians in 200 BC, but everyone knows math didn't exist until white people found it. Here's a rectangle where the length of each square inside it is a term in the Fibonacci sequence, and if you draw a curve at the corners it forms this funny swirl that you might have seen before. Phi, also known as the golden ratio, is a really silly, irrational number. It's the ratio between the lengths of two parts of this line. The value is determined by the length of A divided by segment B, when that is equal to segment B divided by segment C. Clever math people have already figured this out, so to prove this, we can just assert that B equals phi, C equals 1, and therefore A equals phi plus 1. Then you can put those values into that original formula to get phi plus 1 divided by phi is equal to phi over 1, or just phi. Then you can cross multiply and rearrange to get phi squared minus phi minus 1 equals 0. Then you can use the quadratic formula to find the values of phi, and you can take the positive 1 since we're using lengths. So phi is equal to 1 plus root 5 over 2, or about 1.618. The sequence phi to the power of n plus 1 actually follows the Fibonacci sequence, and dividing a Fibonacci number by the previous number in that sequence actually gets more approximate values of phi each time, so it's clear that the two concepts are related. In nature, many things are based on the golden ratio. The phyllotaxis of some plants, including many species of lily, is determined by the golden ratio. Here's an example of how the golden ratio is effective for the survival of plants. So imagine you can put down a seed, a leaf, or a piece of pollen or anything every fraction of a turn. This is what it would look like if you placed one every half turn. Here's every 10th turn, and then here's every phi turn. Since phi is often considered to be the most irrational number, this irregular pattern allows the seeds to be distributed in the most compact way possible, which is neat if the plant wants to put as many of them as possible in their small body and, survive and reproduce or whatever. So it's incredibly clear how nature relates to this mathematical concept. Here are a few examples of other things that incorporate the golden ratio. As well as this, the golden ratio can be written like this, which some believe can illustrate a metaphor for an individual's role in humanity. Mika Kuisma observed that the act of part of the whole adding to the whole onto itself can be thought of as a mathematical way of describing conscious recognition of being part of the whole. In application, this would suggest that when someone sees themselves as part of the world without personal attachment to it and stays firmly in that perspective, then they will also become into a harmonic relationship with the world. One cannot help but become in phi relationship with the nature. This could suggest even a healing process. It's almost as though the universe is a golden ratio and each person is a single unit within it. I was brought up in the Reddit school of atheism, so it all sounds a bit too hippy-dippy and spiritual to me, but I definitely think it's neat that something as objective and logic-based as maths claims to be still boils down to an explanation of natural phenomena that humans just came up with. All mathematicians and scientists are doing is just going down a different lane in the same road that witches are when trying to understand and harness the power of nature, and like dark magic, exploiting that knowledge can be incredibly dangerous. In conclusion, scientists and witches should date. Are there any cute witch people that want to come cuddle, please? Anyone? Okay. Thanks for watching the first episode, bye!